One of my favorite stories about us is we were first starting our business, right? And we couldn't find the time to meet. So we just said, forget it.
Okay.
We're meeting at IHOP at 3 o'clock in the morning since no one has time between 6 a.m. and 7 p.m. at night or whatever at night. We'll meet at IHOP at 3 o'clock in the morning, right?
Okay.
That type of hard work and perseverance, like you said, that was built, you know, and kind of instilled in us while going through school at the Air Force Academy. So.
How's it going, guys, and welcome to another episode of Secrets of Silent Success. Today we have the one and only Loyd Bradley Jr. How are you doing this Sunday morning, sir?
Doing great. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Glad to have you. So let's jump right into it. Who is Loyd Bradley Jr.?
Man, simply put, friend, activist, advocate, entrepreneur. That's me. And I'm committed to a lifelong of service, you know, and that's what I do. I mean, 24/7.
Got you. So you talking about service, you were a part of the Air Force, you played D1 football at the Air Force Academy. Tell me about that experience and then some of the skills like discipline, structure that you're going to get playing football and from the military that you now use in your daily life as an entrepreneur. Yeah,
for sure. And let me first tell you, man, I never thought that I would serve in the military, right? You know, a lot of us have uncles, aunts that serve. Some of us come from military backgrounds. My dad was in the military, but I watched that lifestyle and I said, yeah, I'm not going to be doing that. You know, I'm not doing that. But of course, in Texas, football is king, right? So we play football. We start to get recruited. We start to look at different opportunities, and the Air Force Academy came knocking on the door. And my dad was like, hey, you might want to get up an opportunity. Texas boy, of course, flew up to Colorado, saw mountains. What
Snow.
What is this? I mean, beautiful, right? You know, and fell in love with it. But yeah, attended the Air Force Academy and played football there, and it was a great experience, right? I mean, it teaches you as a young man, you have to grow up really quick, right? You have to be able to balance all of, you know, the academic rigor that comes along with it, and you better be ready to work out in the morning and go to film sessions and do things of that nature. So it definitely instills that hard work in you. So I'm definitely grateful for everything that did for me.
Got you. So go a little more granular with that. You talk about the hard work, the discipline, waking up, the work ethic, the perseverance, getting punched in the mouth, getting back up, next play. How have you applied some of those lessons to what you're doing currently?
Yeah, I mean, so one of my favorite stories of me and my guys, so I know we'll talk about that a little bit more, but one of my favorite stories about us is we were first starting our business, right? And we couldn't find the time to meet. So we just said, forget it. We're meeting at IHOP at 3 o'clock in the morning since no one has time between 6 a.m. and 7 p.m. at night or whatever at night. We'll meet at IHOP at 3 o'clock in the morning, right? That type of hard work and perseverance, like you said, that was built, you know, and kind of instilled in us while going through school at the Air Force Academy. So. Yeah.
Got you. So let's jump into that. You talked about your business partners meeting at IHOP 3 a.m. So you all started a real estate company, right? Diversity Ltd. LLC. Tell me how that came about.
Right. So interesting enough. So we started, me and one other guy, we said, hey, we want to be entrepreneurs. We want to, you know, start a business. We had no idea what we wanted to do, right? 18, 19 years old, you know, talking about starting a business. No idea where we want to go with that. So we started thinking, you know, playing around with different situations. And of course, after talking to a few people, we found out that real estate was very lucrative. So, I mean, we started that. We got 3 other guys, you know, involved at the time. So it's 4 of us now, but we had 3 other guys involved at the time. And we decided that we were going to start buying property. I mean, we bought our first property, you know, sold it, did well on that, and started using that money to buy and get into other opportunities as well. So
Gotcha. I want to talk about those properties in a second, but I want to take it back a little bit. Where did this mindset of I want to be an entrepreneur come from?
So, I mean, it definitely, I think our innate ability and nature to want to lead, right? You know, and want to do our own thing and want to be able to control our own destiny, right? So, of course, it's like, how do we do that? How do you not work for someone else? You work for yourself. So that's where it came from. That was the whole thought process, and we knew what we wanted to do, you know, and we went after it. So
Gotcha. So I know you were doing some, like single family homes and things like that, transition to multifamily, transition to commercial. Let's take it to the first step. What are some tips that you have about getting that first investment property?
Right. So, I mean, so what we did, we actually went and looked at foreclosed homes, right?
Okay.
So you get into the whole foreclosed home sector, and they're selling for much at a lower cost than what a normal home would sell. So we, of course, went after that, and we started going that way. But the first thing that I would say, you have to read. You have to understand what you're getting into. You have to seek out that mentorship from people that have already done what you want to do, and go from it from that standpoint. Because the more knowledge you have, the less likely you are to make a big mistake. So that's what we did. We did a lot of reading before we actually decided to jump into buying property.
Gotcha. So let's pause there for a moment and stay on this buying that first property, because I know when me and my business partner got our first property, having someone to mentor you through the process was pivotal, and we still made mistakes. We still got, kind of burnt with the first contractor, wasted time, wasted money, but without that mentor guidance, we would have been lost at sea, right? So tell me, if you had a mentor, and if you did, how did you even find your mentor? How did that come about? Right.
So we were actually seeking out, of course, people that had been successful in real estate, and we got wind of this guy. So I told you about one of my favorite stories. Here's the other favorite story. We got wind of this guy that was doing very well in real estate. He graduated from the Air Force Academy in, I believe, like 98. So he was a few years older than us, right? So we, instead of taking the normal spring break trip at that time, Panama City Beach was a hot place to be, right? So instead of going to PCB, we decided to use our spring break to fly out to LA and meet this gentleman. And we literally, at the age of 20, show up to his house at like 8 o'clock in the morning in like full suits. And he's looking at us like, what in the world is going on, right? And he took us under his wing and taught us a lot of the things that we know. So it was a lot of seeking out people, making phone calls, saying, hey, mentor us, please, teach us the way. So it was us reaching out to people.
Got you. What was your process of reaching out to people? I heard something interesting. You said he was Air Force Academy alum. I know when me and my business partner reached out, it was someone that he worked with at the time, older black woman who had son our age. It was like she was helping out her sons. Right? So it's all about that commonality. What is that common fiber, that thread? Was there some commonalities? What makes you reach out to the certain people that you reached out to?
Right. So, I mean, we have everyone for the most part is going to have a strong network. If you go to school, if you're in college, you're going to have that strong network between there. I mean, I know a lot of us, we might have a strong network in church, or a strong network in whatever organization it is. But if you look hard enough, and you evaluate, whatever, organization you're in, you're going to find people that are doing exactly what it is that you want to do.
Sure.
And I use those networks and those organizations to actually reach out to people, and don't be scared to ask the question, help me, please. So,
I know when I originally wanted to get into real estate, I was just going off of what I knew about Texas real estate, right? So Texas real estate, it's cheaper than New York or California, but it's a lot more expensive than like the Rust Belt or the Midwest, things like that, right? I was under the impression, like, man, I need to save up $50,000, $60,000. We're taught that loans are bad growing up, at least from a middle class socioeconomic standpoint. Loans are bad. Don't do student loans. So I'm thinking, okay, I need $50,000 in cash. I need to do something in my backyard. It turned out to be the complete opposite. We were able to buy our first property for $15,000 in the Midwest. The second, we were able to finance it. So what are some misconceptions, and what did you use to get started in real estate?
No, I mean, that's great, right? So you have the first time home buyer loans, right? You have those opportunities. You have the FHA loans. You have a lot of government assisted programs that will help you fund whatever it is that you're looking for, right? So for instance, I used my FHA loan, to purchase a property in Ohio in the Midwest, right?
What city? I didn't know this. What city
in Ohio. So it's Dayton.
Dayton,
Dayton,
cool.
Ohio, right? So that was one of the first properties that I bought, on my own, right? And I believe I had to put 3.5% down and to buy this home, which it's a big heavy lift, you know, not having to put 20% down on a home.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
So I was able to buy a 4-unit place and 3.5% down, and it was just like me buying a single family home here in Texas.
Yep.
So those opportunities exist, and you just have to find those. You can Google it, you know, first time home buyer loan, you know, FHA loan. They have loans that you can use, that you can buy the house and actually get the expense of helping the property, I guess improving the property in there as well. So construction costs, excuse me, but there are different opportunities out there.
Gosh, yeah, I think what's awesome to learn is that the barrier to entry in the real estate, which we know is lucrative, is not as high as I thought it was. Yeah. I thought you had to be balling and have hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank. I was like, no, you probably need about 5 to 10, if that. And that's very tangible to get to, right? So you talk about putting 3.5% down. Right. Tell me, how were you able to amass that 3.5%? I don't know that money amount, but hey, was it working just to save? Right. Was that a loan from somebody? How were you able to build that up?
So let's say that you know, it's that $5,000 to $10,000 range, right?
Yep.
We all work, we have jobs, you know, for the most part. I used my job, you know, and the job in the Air Force to fund my dreams. So instead of putting all of my money in the savings account, which I was doing at the time, you know, I was building up that account to where I could make a purchase like this, where I could put that 3.5% down, and now I own, you know, a home, you know. So that's exactly how I funded. I used my day job to fund my dream. Gotcha.
Yeah. So we're totally off the show notes here, but a very interesting thing that you said, you were like, hey, I took my money out of my savings account and put that inside of an investment, right? Absolutely. Whether you talk about stocks, now crypto, real estate. What did that mindset come from to be able to take it from savings to putting into an investment? Because a lot of times that's scary for those who have not been taught that growing up, who haven't done their research. Like, I'm going to put mine in the property. Well, something happened to the property. What if I have a bad tenant? Oh, I'm going to put that in the stock. What if the stock market go down? Right. What did your courage or your mindset come from to be able to take the money out of your savings that's safe in that bank account and then moving it to an investment?
It was actually a course that I took in college that taught me essentially, and we're hearing it now, right? If you're saving money, you're losing money.
Inflation.
Right? Exactly. So inflation, what are you getting on returning your savings account? You know, maybe 0.01%.
A penny for every $1,000, if that.
Exactly. Yep. So I'm like, I'm actually losing money. So I run my own personal account like it's a business account.
Okay.
So I run myself like I'm a business, right? Okay. So I only keep a certain dollar amount in my savings. Once it gets to over that dollar amount, I got to find somewhere to put that money so it's making more money, right?
Okay.
Of course, you got to have your rainy day fund. You know, if something happens, you got to be able to expense it really quick. Absolutely. You know, so that takes care of that. But for the most part, all of my money is, you know, in something that's growing, right? And with that being said, there are inherent risks that you take there. You can wake up and it all be gone. Right?
Absolutely.
But, that's the risk that you take. And, of course, risk comes from not knowing exactly what's going on. So you do your research and make sure you're putting it in a place that's as safe as possible, but going to, grow your money as well.
Got you. So we went I don't want to say lower level, but very entry level and saying like, hey, this is how you get your first property. Look for different government assisted loans. Now I want to go a little higher level, right? Those who may have actually amassed some type of net worth and equity in their lives. What does your allocation look like in terms of, hey, how much cash I have and then how much is invested? Because I know for me, it may sound scary. Probably about 90% or 95% of my net worth is invested. Right? I would have to go liquidate that to go pay for something that crazy happens, and knock on wood. Right. I don't have very much in my checking and savings account because it's not doing anything. For
exactly.
It's in crypto. It's in stocks. It's in real estate. It's in my business. Right?
Absolutely.
What does your allocation look like, just from a percentage standpoint of how you're doing that?
So I would say I'm very close to you. So I say 75 to 80% of my money is somewhere working. Versus being in my checking and savings account. If you looked at my checking and savings account, you wouldn't necessarily
ain't got
be
no
impressed.
money.
Right? Yeah, exactly. You'll say, hey, it looks like a regular checking and savings account, but when you start to look at all the different investment accounts, that's of course, your portfolio and where all your money is actually going and how it's growing, your interest rate and things of that nature. It looks a lot better, right? So my allocation is the same way. And for me, I mean, I'm very risky. I take risk, you know, and I'm okay with that. Because if I woke up and everything went poof, I'm okay because it's just me. I don't have a wife or kids right now, right? So I'm very, you know, heavy on the risk side. So, and I'm okay with that.
Okay. That makes sense. So we'll get back to the show notes. So, like you said, it's you plus 3 other individuals in your partnership. Can you just talk about how that works? I know even with myself, I have 2 business partners in my media company. I have another business partner in my real estate. Just making personalities and temperaments and values work. How do you navigate that?
Man, it's a lot of conversations. It's a lot of trust.
Okay.
And one of our biggest things we say is we do business with family, right? Okay. So we take a family approach to everything that we do, and we are very tight knit and we're very, you know, close together. A lot of people will say don't, you know, do business with friends, you know, can get messy, but I can tell you one of the best decisions I've made is doing business with my friends, right? Absolutely. Because you can be 100% with them. You know, I can look at them and say, hey, you sucking right now, man. What's going on? What's happening? You know, and it's not taken personally. Sure. Or business decisions aren't taken personally. I got one story with one of the guys, I mean, one of my best friends, right? And we're going at it, like just a heated conversation, you know, about a decision that we're trying to make. Yeah. And immediately after the decision was made, we were sitting in the car right next to her and said, all right, man, what you want to eat? Yeah. You know, and it was over, right? You know, so I mean, the ability to do that has been great.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that because that's pretty contrary to what pop culture says. Don't work with your friends. Don't work with your family. Don't work with your spouse. I am totally on board with you. I'm like, work with your friends, work with your family. Right. For me personally, my 2 business partners, we went to high school together. We've been knowing each other since 2009. I mean, we were 15 years old. And then my other business partner, we went to college together. Right. Everybody that I'm sharing money with, we had camaraderie and friendship before there was ever a dollar involved. Exactly. Right. And so even when we're hiring people, we're like, let's see what referrals we can get. Who knows who? And like I said, that's just completely contrary to what people think. Right. Where did that come from? Why did you say like, hey, I want to work with people that are like family. I want to work with friends. What makes you want to do that in the first place?
You know what? Because when you start to, you know, develop, you know, relationships and you want to work with people that you're okay with working with. You want to work with people that you want to see every day. I mean, a lot of the times, you know, these jobs we're at the job, you know, more than we're at home, right? Absolutely. So I'd much rather be with family all of the time, you know? So when we started to develop things that we started to develop, you know, business and things of that nature, we found that it was much easier to have a conversation with each other than it was with the outside person, right? Okay. If I'm stumbling over a thought and I can't get that across to my business partner, he's going to understand and he's going to know me and he's going to help me get my thought out. If I do that to an investor, they'll probably write me off and be like, this guy has no idea what he's talking about, right? You know, so the ease of the relationship, I think that's where it came from, and we found that could be that's a lucrative part of the business as well. You know, somebody who knows you well enough to help you out with whatever it is that you need. So
So again, just on the family or friend dynamic in business, it's interesting that they say, hey, don't work with family or friends, and then when you hear about good cultures in business, they're always like, we're like a family. And I'm just like, okay, well, why not work with family?
Exactly.
Right. Exactly. All right. So you have franchised several spas in the Colorado area. Tell me, where did that come from? What was your thought process about franchising those spas out?
Right. So we actually, we were buying properties, right? Okay. And we wanted to span out and say, hey, we want to build something like a conglomerate, right? Okay. We want to, you know, buy companies. You see Warren Buffett, people like that doing it. Why can't we do something very similar? So actually, 2 of my business partners, they were in business school at the time, and they found a new concept called entrepreneurship through acquisition. And they used that concept to say, hey, let's go evaluate companies just like you would evaluate a property, and let's go buy a company. So in that search, they came across Spavia. Spavia Day Spa, and we of course started to engage with the franchise owners, and I mean, we found that there was a natural relationship there, and so we bought the first one.
Okay.
And then you know, that the relationship and started to develop even more with them, and we found the other two, the owners were willing to sell, and we bought those as well. So that's where it stemmed from. It stemmed from us, you know, looking to build our company, and then we found this opportunity, and it's been a godsend.
Gotcha. So a couple of things to unpack there. You talked about the idea of wanting a conglomerate. I would want to talk about, again, like 22, 25-year-old people don't think, I want to build a conglomerate, right? So where is this coming from? What water are you all drinking that's different than the other, you know, 22, 25-year-olds?
You know what? It comes from wanting to, again, be an entrepreneur and actually build your own stuff. So a lot of people, when we think of entrepreneurship, we think of someone that takes a company or starts their own company, right, from the ground up, right? And that is entrepreneurship, but there's also another avenue that you can take. You can take a company that's already running well, that already has its employees. You can come in, buy that company, and become the CEO of that company. So essentially, you still are an entrepreneur. You're running your own company, right? So that's where that idea came from. We were like, hey, why would we start something from the bottom up and build it up when we already see this company is bringing in a nice amount of money? And we can come in and use our skills to fine-tune that company and make it better. You know, and build it up.
Yeah, so that's a little different than what you said, traditional, I don't want to say traditional entrepreneurs, but what we traditionally think about entrepreneurs is that they find something they're passionate about, even myself included. Hey, I'm passionate about media. So, hey, I go and start a media company from the ground up, and you're really in the business because you're passionate about it. It sounds like you all were passionate about business and then found a way to bring that business passion to life, and you're doing that through, like you said, acquisitions. That kind of on par?
Yeah, absolutely right. And that, again, that's the route that we decided to take because we all have different skills, right? So one of the guys, he's a finance guru. I mean, the guy could take a spreadsheet and rip it up and put it back together better than anyone I know, right? Another one of the guys is the best thinker that I know. And I mean, he can think through anything, philosophy major.
Wow.
You know, and I mean, just awesome, right? And then we have another guy who can read a book from cover to cover in like 10 minutes, you know, and he could digest information really quick. And then there's me. I'm the people person. I'm the person that's going to operate things and make sure the company does well, right? So we use our skills to then go and do exactly what it is we just talked about and acquire these companies and run them, right? And try to do well with them.
Got you. So I actually want to take it back a little bit to one of the questions that we talked about before, which is finding your business partner, building your team. Because this sounds, I know you're a sports guy, right? It sounds a lot like you got different positions, right? Hey, you got your 3-point specialist over here. You got your big man to get your rebounds. You got your dude who's going to close it out. You're talking about, hey, people person, analytics person. You got your more conceptual person. Like, how does that help you all succeed in terms of, you know, taking where somebody's weak and making it strong, things like that?
We understand our lanes, right? So, I mean, we typically stay on our lanes. We'll get out of our lanes sometimes, right? So where I said the guy is a financial guru, I can go in and I can look at spreadsheets like him. It might take me an hour where it takes him 5 minutes. But I mean, I can come to either the same or a different conclusion, and I can question, you know, hey, you know, what's this, what's that, you know, are you sure, you know, I got this, you know. So yes, we do have our own lanes. We do have our positions that we play.
Sure.
But I mean, I think we're all well-rounded enough to where we can, you know, get together and figure things out. And I mean, it's very important to have people that think differently from you and are able to look at things in a way that you wouldn't have looked at them, right? So that's been very valuable to us as well. Again, make sure you have a team that's diversified, right?
There you go.
And make sure you have your finance guy. Make sure you have your, you know, operations guy. Make sure you have your great thinker or whatever that is, whatever that looks like for you.
Got you. So you talked about entrepreneurship through acquisition. What does it even look like to acquire a business, right? So obviously, I know that's probably a whole course, right?
Most definitely.
How to acquire a business. But for you all, just really quickly, what does that even look like?
Right. So a lot of people think that buying a business is some like mythical thing that could never happen, right? Like how in the world do I buy a business? But I would say that it's it's a very lucrative thing, and it's fairly simple to do, right? If you could buy a house, you could buy a business.
Okay.
And working for yourself a lot of the times is a lot better than working for someone else in some aspects.
Okay.
And that allows you a lot of freedom. So, for instance, let's say you take a company that's doing $1 million in revenue. It sounds like a lot of money to us, right? $1 million in revenue. But realistically, from an entrepreneur standpoint, you expect that 10 to 20% of that revenue is going to be profit. So 10%, 20%, $100,000 to $200,000 is profit, right?
Okay.
A company that's doing that much can sell anywhere between $300,000 and $600,000. Most of the homes that we're buying, $300,000, right?
Yep.
So I mean, you can buy a company that's doing $1 million in revenue for that $300,000, right?
Okay.
And what you can do, just like a loan that you would a mortgage from a bank,
Okay.
you put your 10% down, $30,000 down, and you can get an SBA loan, so a Small Business Association loan, and $30,000 down, you can have a $1 million revenue company.
Okay.
Right. So it's very doable. It's something that we all can get into. You just have to be willing, again, to take that risk and willing to run that company. And again, you can be profiting $200,000 plus, year over year.
Got you. So, unlike homes, businesses aren't just listed on Zillow, to my knowledge, right? So how do you find a deal that makes sense? That okay, they're making or they're grossing $1 million in sales, and then they're netting 10. How did you even find that deal?
Right, absolutely. So just like you have a real estate agent,
okay,
you have a business broker.
Okay.
Same concept, right? You're looking for a house, you're gonna go to that real estate agent, and you're gonna say, "Hey, I'm looking for a house, a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. I want it in this area," right?
Yep.
You're gonna go to the same to the business broker with the same type of answers. Hey, I'm looking for, this type of business in this type of area that's doing this amount in sales.
Okay.
And once they see that you're serious, just like a real estate agent would, they'll really, start to work with you, and they know that you could fund different things. I mean, they'll really start to work with you, right?
Yep.
But there are also Zillow.coms for businesses as well,
okay.
right? So I don't want to necessarily shout out any other websites, but those websites exist if you Google it. So
Got you. In terms of getting that SBA loan, what steps is that going off your personal credit? Was that business credit that you built through credit lines? How were you able to get approved for that, $300,000 to buy a business?
Right. It's very similar, right? Okay. Just like buying a house, right? They're going to look at your credit. They're going to look at your assets. They're going to look at what you have and say, are we willing to, take a risk on this person, but are we willing to take a risk on this business? Is this business worth it, right? Okay. Just like they're going to have an appraiser go to your house, right? Yeah. And they're going to look at the house and they're going to say, the pipes are kind of messed up, maybe it's not worth the amount that you're saying. Same thing is going to happen on the business side with the SBA loan. They're going to come in and assess the business, assess you and your credit, and then they're going to make a decision as to whether they're willing to lend you that money or not.
Got you. So for those who may be listening, maybe saying, okay, well, I can get a loan, I can go buy a business, I can get $100,000, $200,000 in profit and just be sitting back and relaxing. But how does that look like for you to be materially involved? And what I mean by materially involved is actually hands-on doing work in the business. Right. How materially involved are you in the business, and how much upkeep and work is it to take a business that's already running and keep it growing in profits?
Right, absolutely. So you if you have that baby, you got to take care of that baby too. Okay. Now, all right? It's not over for you once that happens. But you can be as hands-on as you like, or you can be as hands-off as you like as well, right? So in that $200,000 profit that we just talked about, you could take half of that and say, pay someone else $100,000 to run the company for you. You can never come into the company if you like, right? And you could just profit that other $100,000. And what did you do? You just sat at home, right? Of course, you're gonna have to make decisions, and it'll never be as hands off as that. But then you can also say, no, I'm going to go be the CEO. I'm going to go be the manager, and you can go run that company yourself. And profit from that. So the range varies. For us, we did decide to hire a general manager. So we have a general manager running things for us with the spas, and we're hands-on in the sense that we, of course, engage, daily, but I'm not necessarily in the spa every single day.
Got you. In terms of what's next for you all, you talked about you also have like some strip malls going into commercial real estate, buying businesses. It's almost sounding kind of VC. You talking about building a conglomerate. A lot of people don't even know what venture capital is or VC is. So just give me a little bit a background about what you all are looking to do and why.
Yeah, so I mean, so venture capital, you know, going that route versus the private equity route, the route that we want to go. Venture capital, for those that don't fully understand it, is investing into new ventures, right? Okay. So a venture capitalist is going to come in and say, hey, I want to invest X amount of dollars into this startup company and, you know, have some type of ownership in that to help them build that company, right? Okay. A private equity firm is going to go buy that existing company and try to scale it up and make that company more profitable. Okay. So what we're working to do is take that private equity model and go after it that way, buy companies, you know, and have one big company, umbrella company, and then
a holding company.
There you go.
Okay.
So perfect. So a holding company and have multiple entities underneath it.
Gotcha.
Right, so
cool. That's very dope.
Thanks, man.
In first of all, I only heard about a holding company when I'm like 22, 23, talking to other entrepreneurs. Didn't even know what a holding company was. Right. And then just as a Black American, like we don't know about a holding company. Right. We don't know about business through acquisition. How does it look like as a Black man in this space?
There's not many of us. Sure. Right? There needs to be more of us. There needs to be more of us that are interested in doing things like this. I mean, I definitely understand that some people are okay with, you know, having the 9-to-5, which there's nothing wrong with that, right?
Sure.
That's great. You know, I mean, we need people like that. We need people like with the entrepreneur mindset. But what I will say is this space is very hard. You know, sometimes when you walk in the room and you don't look like the person that they thought they were talking to,
Absolutely.
Right? So it's a space that I think we need to be more aware of. It's a space that I think we need to make sure that we're inserting ourselves into. And it only works if people are reaching up, reaching down, you know, to grab those folks, to pull them up and, you know, help out. So
yeah, absolutely. And I was going to ask you, that was going to be my next thing. Well, how do we get more of us in that space?
Right.
A lot of times we're like, hey, we need more Black male qualified candidates for whatever position or umbrella you want to name it. I'm like, well, how do we get that pipeline to get the qualified candidates? Right?
Yeah.
So you talk about reaching up and reaching down, but what are some of the things you may be doing to just try to get more people like yourself into that space?
Right. So what we try to do is so of course, when we're growing up, right, we're looking at the athlete and, you know, we're looking at the, you know, the music producer or, you know, so I love Diddy. Diddy is one of my favorite icons, Diddy and Jay-Z. But I mean, we're looking at those folks and we're like, we want to do that, right? Because it's publicized. So one of the things that we've tried to do is really publicize the things that we're doing so people can see, or, you know, kids that look like us can see, hey, what they're doing is cool too. You know, you can get the Lambo or the Rari or whatever it is that you're aspiring to have by going this route as well, right? So that's one thing that we do. And then the other thing we do is make sure that we're heavily involved in the community.
Gotcha.
Kids can't beat what they can't see, man.
Absolutely. I can't see.
I 100% believe that. I mean, you have, you know, the onesie twosies that end up doing something that they didn't see. But for the most part, kids need to be able to see it. And when I say kids, I'm talking about 18, 19, 20-year-olds too, right? Yep. They need to be able to see that whatever it is that they want to do or whatever that they might want to do that they don't know that they want to do yet, they can do it. And because they see that example. So heavily involved in the community. Right now, I'm the president of our Black Alumni Association from the Air Force Academy. Okay. Awesome. So, I mean, it's consistently being, you know, in those students' ears, you know, recruiting those high school students and even down to the middle schools as well.
Gotcha. One of the things I found interesting that you talk about in there is, you know, hey, if you want the Lambo, if you want the Rory, and hey, we want to publicize what we're doing. Like, hey, I got the car, I got the chain on. Right. It's not just the entertainers, it's just not the athletes that's doing that. Like, why do that? Because a lot of times people say, hey, you need to be, you know, clean cut and fit a certain mold. And you're like, hey, I'm going to do me. And that's what appeals to the kids. So I want to do what appeals to the kids.
Right, exactly. You know, I've heard it referred to as muzzle pressure.
Muzzle pressure?
Yeah, muzzle pressure. Having muzzle pressure and that pressure to not necessarily, you know, express yourself because you think you have to fit a certain mold. Okay. I find it very striking when I can walk in the room and I can wear my 2 chains, and people again give you that crazy look, but you can speak the same language they can speak. I mean, a lot of times you have the same money in your pocket that they have, you know. So I mean, it's respected, you know, the same way. I mean, it takes some time for some folks to get used to you, but again, I think you have to come in situations and be your whole self, right? Yeah. Of course, there's different times where, of course, I'm not gonna wear my chains with my tux, you know, if I'm going to a gala or a ball, you know, or whatever it is, you know, you tailor it to whatever you're doing. But I think you have to allow yourself to be yourself and be comfortable in the space that you're in, because if you're not comfortable, why be there to begin with?
Absolutely, absolutely. Couple things you're talking about, going into those rooms where those that may not look like you. How do you navigate those rooms? I know you talked about being authentically yourself, but what else are you doing to make sure that you're successful in rooms where people don't look like you?
Know your stuff. Yeah. You know, be an expert. You know, be as well prepared as you could possibly be. You can't go into these rooms and be unprepared, right? So talk about reading and things of that nature. Make sure you're studying up. Make sure you're having multiple conversations with different people that, you know, that could teach you what you need to know, right? Sure. So I try not to go into any space ignorant. I try to, again, be an expert at what I do, and be willing to admit when I don't know something, right? You know, say, hey, you know, I don't exactly know, understand this right now, but yeah, let me go, you know, take a look. Let me do a little bit of research, or if I got my people with me too, looking, you know, looking like, hey, did somebody get that, you know? And I mean, that's been very helpful.
Gotcha. All right, so switching gears a little bit, we talked about diversification of assets personally, but what about diversification of income streams? I know you have some multifamily properties, some commercial real estate. Right. Then obviously you have some of these businesses that you've acquired through acquisition. Right. What's the importance for you for diversifying and having multiple streams of income? Yeah,
I mean, I would advocate for having as many as you can possibly keep up with, right? Okay. You know, it's great to wake up and see money coming into your bank account, and you didn't necessarily have to work hard, you know, for it on the back end, right? Okay. So I believe that's one, of course, very important, like anybody else would believe. But I think it's very important that you're able to maintain those and be able to have your hands kind of on all of them and not overwhelm yourself as well. So, but again, the multiple streams of income, very important. I mean, again, waking up to see money in your bank account that you didn't necessarily have to work for in that time period to get is always important. Gotcha.
So 2 questions there. The first is for someone who is just working at 9 to 5 or may have just one business. How do they begin to diversify? And then part 2 of that question is for those who maybe have a couple income streams. Okay, I got a real estate here. Right. I got some investments here. I got my business. How do I figure out what's next and if I have the capacity to take on something else?
No, that's a great question. And I don't know that I have the full answer for that, but I will say is a lot of the time those opportunities come to you, and they come to you based off your circle and the people that you surround yourself with, right? So I mean, of course, you know, people, when they find out that you do have a little bit more money to invest, or you want to look at diversifying your portfolio, opportunities will come to you. So I'll say a good 50% of the opportunities that I've found have come to me, you know, walked in through my door, and I'm like, let me research this more. Let me understand what it is that you're doing, and let me see if I would like to invest. But, of course, research, reading, and I will keep going back to reading, because that's one of the most important things that we have to make sure that we're doing, the younger generation and the older generation as well. So got to make sure we're educating ourselves.
Gotcha. Yeah, let's talk about reading. I like to go back and mentor young adults, whether it's college students, high school students, and I tell them, in my opinion, the number one ingredient to success is long-form reading. Sitting down with someone's ideas and thoughts and reading it through completion. Not just a social media post, not just a blog, but picking up a book, right? I think it was Malcolm X that said, if you want to hide something from a black person, put it between the covers of a book. Right. What is your inquisitive nature for reading come from? How did you start reading? Why did you start reading? How often do you read now? Just talk to me a little bit about reading.
One of the smartest people I know. I mean, he boasts about having read thousands of books. And I mean, before meeting him, I had, you know, I'm just like, it's a book. Why do I need to read it, right? Yeah. And one of the first books that he really recommended that I read was How to Read a Book. That's the name of the book.
Okay.
It's How to Read a Book, and don't quote me. I don't necessarily remember the author's name, but one of the most valuable books I've ever read. Right, it teaches you how to actually dissect, how to think about people's thoughts and things of that nature, and how to reason with them yourself. When I did that, I've really found that self-education was just as important as a formal education, right? Because you're sitting here, even if it's fiction or nonfiction, right? You could learn a lot of lessons from a fictional book, from fictional characters and the way that they navigated things, the way that they thought about stuff, or the author, portrays that character, right?
Yep.
So that was one of the most important things. And what I did was I actually started by reading just 10 pages of a book per day.
Okay.
If you do that every single day, you're reading about 300 pages in a month. Most books, depending on the book.
That's a month,
that's a book, right? That's a book per month.
Yep.
And you'll find that you'll sit down and you'll read something. You think you're only going to get through 10 pages, but you start getting to 15 and 20 because the book or the whatever it is interesting, the information. So I definitely am a heavy advocate for reading because, again, that's how we learned a lot of the things that we know now.
So most of the individuals that we've interviewed for the podcast, myself included, have been passion-driven entrepreneurs. Hey, we were really passionate about the industry that we got into. Like I said, that's our baby. That's what we love to do. We would do it for free if we could, right? I don't see the spa industry as that for you, right? Hey, it's not like, hey, I was passionate about a spa. I always wanted to own a spa. It was a business acquisition, right? So tell me the difference between the two, and then what are your passion? What is your purpose?
Right. So, interesting enough, me getting a facial, I never saw that happening. Now I'm like, hey, is there a spot open? Let me get that facial. But I think my passion is leadership. Okay. I feel as if I could come into, of course, humbly come into any organization or any business and effectively run and lead that business. So leading is what I love to do, and that's what I'm good at, right? Okay. So if I don't know the answer to something, I'm smart enough to get the right people around me. So there's no way I can run a production company, right? Yep. But I'm going to have to come look at some folks and be like, hey, I have no idea how this works, Let's make it work, but I do know how to lead people, and so leadership is my passion, and coming in and being that CEO, being that great manager for people, being the person who cares, being the person that's going to help the business grow, that's what I'm passionate about. So that's why that made sense, and a lot of other businesses could make sense as well.
Gotcha. So the last topic we'll talk about is leadership. All right, you're talking about, hey, that's something that you love to do. Let me ask you this question. Do you believe leadership is innate, or is that something that can be taught and learned?
I think it's a little bit of both, right? Okay. So, some people already have the interpersonal skills, the charisma that people are naturally going to want to follow, right? Okay. So that's something that can't necessarily be taught, but something that can be worked on and improved upon, right? Okay. But what I will say is a lot of decision-making processes, the psychology of leading and things of that nature, that's stuff that can be taught, and that's stuff that people can really thrive in, if they want to really learn those things. Gotcha. But so I would definitely say it's a little bit of both.
Gotcha. And some things that can be read. It sounds like the psychology of leadership sounds like a book title.
You know what? I'm sure they got.
I think it's a book title.
Is it really?
I think it's
that is
book
funny.
title.
That's funny.
Yeah.
No, I didn't do that one on purpose.
So what are your leadership skills or leadership philosophies, if you will?
Right. It's so cliche to say, but servant leadership, man. I think you really have to care for the people that you're leading, right? You have to be involved as much as involved as you would like, right? So, business in different regions of the world are done differently, right?
Sure, absolutely.
So, in Texas, I'm going to come in and I'm going to say, hey, how's your family doing? How's your wife? How the kids? Whatever.
New York, not so much.
Yeah, New York's like, hey, what does this financial statement look like, right? Before you do it. But that's just who I am as a person, and I genuinely care, right? And I want to get to know the people. And once you do that, man, the things that people will do for you that you don't even have to ask for them to do, it'll blow your mind, right? If you actually genuinely care about people, you make a safe, fun work environment for those folks. It's just great. So that's where I've thrived, and I've always also admitted when I'm not the smartest person in the room on a particular subject, and I put my pride to the side and say, hey, I have no idea. somebody, you know, teach me this, somebody help me make this decision. And I mean, that's how I've been able to lead. So it's not a dictatorship. It's a, you know, let's collaborate, let's put our minds together, let's, you know, find our way through whatever it is that we're going through. Got
you. So the last thing we'll end with is, what's your best tip or advice for success?
So depending on who I'm talking to, but what I will say for, you know, any young black man out there, one of the biggest things that we were able to do, again, we sought out the people that we wanted to be like. We sought out the people that were successful in the things that we wanted to do, and we essentially forced them to mentor us. Right? You know, hey, take me under your wing. You know, be humble, put your pride aside, and understand that you don't know it all. Right?
There you go.
And allow those people to teach you those things that you need to learn to be successful. It's a lot of wisdom out there, and I'll tell you what, you get it as you get older.
Yep.
And while we're younger, we don't necessarily have that. So a lot of those folks that would mentor us can help us avoid the pitfalls that they fell into or ones that they saw others fall into.
Yeah. So cool. We'll leave it there.
All right, cool.
Appreciate you, my man.
No
it was
doubt,
fun,
man.
bro.
No doubt, bro. I appreciate you and everything that y'all are doing. So
absolutely.